All right, hello, future English teachers, and welcome. In this explainer, we're going to turn you into a true architect of language. We're going to give you the TKT blueprint for success. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to build up your teaching knowledge step by step. First, we'll look at the basic architecture. Then we'll dive into the blueprints themselves. After that, we'll figure out the purpose of our design, learn the golden rule that holds everything together, and wrap it all up with your complete master plan. All right, first things first, you can't build a house without knowing what bricks are, right? So we're going to start by laying the foundation, and that means really getting a grip on the single most crucial concept in teaching grammar. So this right here, this is the absolute core of it all, form versus function. Think of it this way. Form is the what. It's the nuts and bolts, the grammar rules, the structure. But function, that's the why. Why are we using this structure? What meaning are we trying to get across? And that totally depends on the context, you know? If you can get your students to see this distinction, you've already won half the battle. It's what makes grammar finally click. Okay, foundation's poured. Now let's look at the actual blueprints. We're talking about the specific forms and structures. You know, the phrases and clauses. These are literally the building blocks for every single sentence your students will ever write or say. And look at this. It shows so clearly how modifiers and phrases follow these predictable patterns. It's like a recipe, right? For a superlative, you take the most and add a long adjective. Boom. For a prepositional phrase, preposition plus a noun. Done. The big thing you need to get across to your students is that this isn't just random stuff they have to memorize. No way. These are reliable formulas they can use over and over to build better, more descriptive sentences. So here's a huge pro tip for your classroom. You've got to make this stuff tangible. Don't just lecture about the formula on the board. Let them feel it. Get some sentence strips, cut up some words and phrases, let them physically move on the table from the beginning of a sentence to the end and see what happens. It turns this abstract, kind of boring rule into a fun, hands-on project. It's a game changer. Now we're getting into the real engines of our sentences, verbs and clauses. Look at these formulas. You've got the present continuous, right? That's for what's happening right now. Then there's the zero conditional for things that are always true. And of course, relative clauses, which let us pack in more information. The point is, each one of these has its own specific blueprint for a very specific job. And here's how you can practice that in class. It's super simple. Give them a basic sentence, something like, the man is a doctor. Then you just ask, okay, but which man? And prompt them to add more info. Oh, the man who lives next door is a doctor. See? That little prompt gets them using that relative clause blueprint without even thinking about it. It's a fantastic way to help them master these structures. All right, so we've got our parts, we've got our blueprints. So the next logical question is, why? Why do we put them together in so many different ways? Well, it all comes down to intention. It's about building with a purpose and creating a very specific meaning. Think about it. Every sentence has a job. It's either stating a fact, that's a declarative sentence, or it's asking a question, that's an interrogative. Maybe it's giving a command, that's an imperative. Or it's yelling with excitement, that's exclamatory. Once your students know the purpose, they can pick the right tool, the right structure for the job. And just like a building, sentences can get more and more complex. It's like adding stories to a skyscraper. You start with a simple sentence, that's your ground floor, just one idea. Then you connect two main ideas, and bam, you've got a compound sentence. Add a secondary idea, now it's a complex sentence. You see how it works? It gives students a clear roadmap from just stating a basic fact to expressing really nuanced, complex thoughts. This is another fantastic activity that really empowers your students. Just give them two simple sentences, like, it was raining and we went for a walk. Then hand them a conjunction, a little connector word, like because or although. The sentence they build is totally up to them, and the meaning changes completely depending on their choice. This shows them that grammar isn't some dusty old rulebook. It's about making creative choices to say exactly what they want to say. Okay, let's talk about the physics that holds this whole structure together. I'm talking about subject-verb agreement, or what we call concord. This is the absolute law of gravity for sentences. It's what keeps them from just collapsing into a pile of nonsense. So what's the golden rule? It's actually really simple. The subject and the verb have to match. That's it. Singular subject, singular verb. Plural subject, you guessed it, plural verb. They have to click together perfectly, like two puzzle pieces. The bird sings, not the birds sing. It seems basic, I know, but this is the foundation of a grammatically correct sentence. But even though the rule itself is simple, there are a few tricky spots that can make the whole structure feel a little wobbly. So let's take a look at the 4 common areas where students almost always get tripped up. Okay, here are the first 2 big ones. First, compound subjects. Usually, and makes it plural, right? The dog and the cat are playing. Easy. But throw in an or a nor, and suddenly the rules change. The verb just has to agree with whatever is closest. Then you've got the real sneaky one, indefinite pronouns. Words like everyone or somebody, they just sound plural, don't they? But nope, they're singular. This is a massive trap for learners, so definitely keep an eye out for this one. So let's put you on the spot. Your student writes this. Everybody in the class are working hard. What do? You can't just mark it wrong with a red pen. You have to explain why it's wrong. A good way is to use our blueprint analogy. Tell them to picture everybody as one single block, one unit. And that one block needs a singular verb to match it, is. Now, our last 2 challenges are really interesting because they're kind of opposites. On one hand, you have collective nouns, like team or family. These are super flexible. They can be singular if the group is acting as one, or plural if everyone's doing their own thing. But then you have titles of books or movies. These are totally rigid. They are always singular. I don't care how long the title is. The Lord of the Rings is one book, not R. Sooner or later, a sharp student is going to ask you this exact question. And when they do, that's an amazing teaching moment. So how do you explain it? Well, analogies are your best friend here. You could say, when the team is winning, they're working together like one well-oiled machine, a single unit. But when the team are arguing, they're not a unit anymore, right? They're a bunch of separate individuals. That usually makes it click. Okay, we've looked at the blueprints, we've examined all the parts, and we've learned the physics that holds it all together. We have literally seen how language is constructed from the ground up. So now it's time. Let's put it all together in one master plan that you can take right into your classroom. And here it is. This is the master plan, your TKT grammar blueprint. It pulls everything together. Structure gives you the what, the formulas. Use gives you the why, the purpose. And Concord makes sure the whole thing is stable. If you keep this framework in your head, you can diagnose pretty much any grammar problem a student has and guide them right to the solution. And please, always remember this. You're not just a grammar cop teaching a bunch of boring rules. Not at all. You are giving your students the tools of an architect, tools they can use to build their thoughts, to design their ideas, and to construct the amazing worlds they want to share with everyone. So now you have the blueprints. The real question is, what are you going to build with them? Because this knowledge isn't just about passing a test. It's about empowering your students. So take these plans, take these tips, and go build some amazing, incredible lessons. Go be the language architect your students are waiting for.